We're coming to you from the DraftKings.com podcasting studios. DraftKings.com, America's one-day fantasy sports site, where it's like a new season every time you play. DraftKings.com.
From ESPN's Pod Center, this is NBA Lockdown.
Welcome into another edition of the NBA Lockdown podcast. I'm Israel Gutierrez. Joining me today, Amin Elhassan. What's going on, Amin?
Nothing much. Just chilling, watching these playoff games. Excited to talk about it with all you wonderful people out in podcast land.
Have they been that exciting, though? The game, I remember last year's first round was nuts, so this year's not going to live up to that, but it hasn't been great so far.
It's hit or miss. I think that Mavs-Rockets game was good. It was a very well-played game. It just so happened the final score looks a lot, it looks like it was a laugher, but it was a well-contested game for much of the night. Cavs let the Celtics
Boston,
hang
that
around
was
again.
A pretty good game.
Yeah. It was all right.
Let's start with this.
Game's always gonna.
Yeah. Those are usually going to be the weaker ones, at least this year. But let's start with the Rockets and Mavs here. This wasn't so much about the game. I mean, the Rockets won 111-99, but let's start with Rondo here. One of the most bizarre performances, I guess you could call it, I've seen in an NBA game, specifically in an NBA playoff game. But he ends up having that crazy sequence where he got the 8-second violation, followed by just walking around like a zombie moment as Terry hits the three, and then second half gets benched after picking up his fourth really quickly, and then never played again. And it doesn't seem like this is fixable. I think we all kind of recognize that early on, but I don't understand the thinking, of a guy like Rondo here who clearly has a lot at stake this postseason. In all likelihood, has one round to make any sort of final impression, one playoff round to make any sort of final impression going into free agency. Plays hard and well in the first game, and then comes out and does this.
You think he played well in the first game?
No. Okay, I think he played hard.
He played hard.
I think he played hard.
He gave effort. He tried.
Yeah.
He tried.
And this one, I don't know if he did that.
Here's my thing. Whoever is going to end up paying Rajon Rondo this summer, that dude is not perturbed by what's happening in the playoffs. I don't know who it is, but I just know whoever is going to end up paying him, they're not looking at it and saying, well, let me see what he did in the playoffs. Because we know, since he's been in Dallas, it really hasn't been that good. We know the team doesn't perform well when he's on the floor. We know he hasn't played well. So the team that's going to end up paying Rondo, they've already got their excuse. Well, Dallas used him wrong. Well, it wasn't the right situation for him. So if you tell them, well, what about that playoff game when he was terrible, where he got the 8-second count and he was strolling out there while people just lighting him up, they're going to say, well, of course, he wasn't engaged. Didn't know how to talk to him, how to use him. That's what they've already got that.
Who is this person? Because
I don't know.
This person is crazy.
I don't know either, but I promise you, the team that ends up signing him, they're going to use a lot of change of scenery, right fit. They're going to use all those little euphemisms to say, oh, yeah, he's awful, but we're going to make him incredible. So I wouldn't, I'm not that concerned about his earning potential, although I agree with you, if he had played well in the playoffs, at least maybe he could sucker a couple more teams and be like, well, maybe he's not that terrible. But
all right.
but
well, help me understand this, though.
Okay.
Help me understand this, because I talked to some people, a couple people in particular, have said that Rick Carlisle, very difficult to play for, especially if you're a guard, because, he's micromanager, he's one of those guys, and he just kind of irks you. And, obviously Jason Kidd wasn't too fond of it, but they worked out anyway. Even Chauncey Billups wasn't a big fan of it, but he found a way to make it work out. But Rondo's the one guy who kind of went over the top with this reaction to Carlisle, and I just don't understand what his final goal is here. Like, is he that stubborn to where he's just trying to prove a point to the world and say, see, it wasn't all me, it was a lot of Carlisle? Or is he just, like you said, confident that it doesn't matter how he plays in the playoffs, he's going to get his money? Or is this just a makeup of Rajon Rondo where I don't care what the rest of the world looks like, I'm going to win my one-on-one mental battle with this head coach? Because I just don't understand the mentality of a guy who comes out and plays that way.
Well, see, I wouldn't say that he played that way because he's confident he's going to get paid anyway. I'm just saying that he's going to get paid anyway by the person who's in love with him. But if you're asking me what going through his head, I think it's pretty obvious. I think, you can start with the Baxter Holmes piece that came out a couple weeks ago. That was a great look into Rondo, the personality, Rondo, the way his brain works, Rondo's background in grade school and in college, etc. And you can take that piece and you can go backward. So I'm sure there were great pieces by Jackie McMullen when he was in Boston, and all the Boston writers that covered him, to the people at the Louisville Courier-Journal. Like, you can go all the way back. This is pretty consistent. This is who this guy is. And you get that a lot with players who have high IQs. I think sometimes you get guys who are immature, and when you get immature plus high IQ, you get this pettiness, this petulant behavior. And this, to me, as a front office guy, if I'm doing my homework and I'm saying this is the guy we're going to go after, I have to kind of expect this, right? So, different player, but similar. Boris Diaw. Boris Diaw is off the charts. Brilliant. High IQ basketball player. Off the charts. I'm talking about, we had Steve Nash on our team, and we were like, wow, Boris Diaw is a genius. That's how high his IQ is. But Boris wants things done in a particular way, and he wants him to, he wants people to take him into in a certain way, approach him in a certain way, and value him and show your appreciation in a certain way. And that is stuff like allowing him basically to play how he wants to play. Not really a power forward, not really a small forward, not really just a basketball player. And he can dribble, pass, and shoot and do all these things and post up and everything. And he really has very low tolerance for you asking him to do things that he sees as either beneath him or gross underutilizations of his talents. He'll check out with the quickness. And we saw that in Phoenix from, where he was, first of all, under Coach D'Antoni, where he was the year Amari was hurt, and how free and incredible he played. And then the next year, when Amari came back, I'm like, all right, Boris, you got to come off the bench. And Boris is, I was like, what? Did you not see the season I just put forth, and you're going to ask me to be a bench player? So he took that in a certain way. And then he fell into that role and kind of accepted it. And then Coach D'Antoni left and Coach Porter came. And Coach Porter really kind of just reduced his role to just, hey, all I want you to do is rebound and defend, like basically be a power forward. And for Boris, it's like, that's saying like you're garbage, you don't know how to play. That's how he took that. And he checked out there, he checked out in Charlotte, and then he gets in San Antonio, and they're like, no, we're going to let you play the way you want to play. And the rest is history. Everyone's like, whoa, who knew Boris was this good? So what we all knew is just, can you put him in a situation where he feels like his talents are being appreciated? I think Rondo has a lot of that. And you can call it genius, and you can call it, entitlement. But at the end of the day, I think part of it is a maturity level. I think Boris matured over the years as well. He figured out.
Yeah.
Like, what are the things that I can...
Where they let him play the way he wants.
Yeah, if you let me play the way I want to play, well, am I willing to compromise certain things? Am I willing to compromise playing time? Am I willing to compromise starting versus not starting? Boris figured out those things that he's willing to compromise on, and that's why he's been a great productive player for the Spurs. I don't think Rondo's ever figured out the things he's willing to compromise, and that's his issue.
All right, well, here was Rick Carlisle talking about Rondo and why he got benched in the fourth.
Rick, what factored into your decision to play Rondo only 36 seconds in the second half?
Well, he got his fourth foul, so I took him out. And then, I liked the way the other guys were playing, so elected not to put him back in. Coach's decision.
And then to the typical coach's sort of reaction and the coach speak, rather than say, hey, this guy's been a head case and it's obvious what's going on, he talks about the entire team needing to recover, and this was Rick discussing that after the game.
All I know is right now we need everybody, at their competitive best. And this isn't about one guy that did or didn't play. This is much bigger than that. This is about everybody pulling the same direction, for the organization. That's what it's all about. And so, we just got to go home and we got to take care of business at home. They've done what they're supposed to do as a home team. We got to do what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, it's not just about one guy, the way Rick says there. It's about the whole team, but the whole team stinks right about now. And the only guy who can put up any points, it seems like, is Monte Ellis, and he wasn't very efficient yesterday. Dirk was 3 for 14. It's amazing that the Mavs were in the game for as long as they were, given how poorly they were shooting. Their shot 37%. They're pretty much done, right? Like, there's no recovering. There's no formula here for the Mavs, is there?
I don't know. I don't know that they're done. I thought they played pretty well, and what was missing was basically, look, here's the one thing. It's one thing to say, oh, the Rockets took so-and-so completely out of the game or shut someone down. Like, then you could say, oh, man, well, then that's it. But when Dirk is going one-on-one against Pablo Prigioni and he can't do nothing, I don't know. Like it's one of two ways. Either Dirk is completely washed and it's a wrap, and you're right, the series is a wrap, or we can also say, well, in put in that situation again, Dirk is going to make those shots. I don't know what the answer is, but I don't see anything. Say what? What's that?
I think based on what you've seen this year, it's probably more of the chance of the latter. Like, he's more close done than he is to being able to recover.
You think that Dirk is falling off so hard that he can't even make shots over a 6'2", 180-pound dude?
No. Well, listen,
he's
he's
also
not going to
400 years old.
He's not going to get that same look every time. What I'm saying is,
he got that look time and time again last night. He got that look a lot last night. They weren't saying.
Yeah, I mean, look, he is so. Yeah, given another chance at that, yeah, I think he can have a big game and can make those shots. But I don't think that yesterday was one of those anomalies where you'll say, oh, Dirk will never have a game like that again. I mean, he very well could go that route again. I don't think he's fallen off a cliff. I don't think he's fallen off a cliff necessarily, but he's clearly declined over the last 2 years.
I mean, he's declined, but again, if you look at a game like last night, they don't need him. I'm not saying that he's got it. It's kind of like what we're talking about Derrick Rose. They don't need him to be the reason. Like, oh, I carried this offense. Get on my shoulders. Get on my back, guys. I'll carry you across the finish line. But they do need him to be like a knockout blow. And that game was a one-point game in the fourth quarter. And Mavericks hanging around, getting stops, and then they come back down and score. And Barea, I thought Barea gave you as much as you can expect from Barea. But at some point, it's unfair.
And it was still 5 for 14.
But that's not on him to be.
No. I know that's what I'm saying is they just don't have it. Right. They don't have enough. Chandler Parsons, even if he does come back, you don't know what he's going to play like with that knee. They were missing Harris yesterday too. They needed Dirk Nowitzki to be the reason if Monte Ellis wasn't going to be the reason.
They didn't. They were in it. All they needed him to do was, okay, you had an awful game, but in the fourth quarter, can you hit 2 or 3 of these shots? That's all they needed, and he could not even deliver that. And I think that's what it is. That's what it is.
Well, on the other end, then.
Because here's the problem. But here's the problem. No, I got to finish this point. Because here's the problem. A guy like Dirk, they give him the respect to say, Dirk's not got it right now, but we're going to leave him out there because Dirk is going to get it going because that's what he's done time and time again. He's earned that respect from his coach, from his teammates. They leave him out there. The problem is, if he's not hitting on this end, on the other end it's disaster. And that's what happened, is that it wasn't just he couldn't carry it. He's giving you nothing on both ends. In fact, he's giving you a minus, and that's where the issue was.
And that's not changing. That's another point. That's not changing from this game to the next game necessarily.
By the way, one last thing. You know what the big key was that I was really shocked about that I don't think anyone brought up? Why did Al-Farouq Aminu sit all that time in the fourth quarter while the Rockets were going crazy?
It's a good question. I mean, he was one of the few guys that was a plus on that end, and played 23 minutes and couldn't.
That's the question. I wouldn't. If I was in that press room, I wouldn't have asked about Rondo. Rondo's the easy, sexy question. But there's a reason why Rondo didn't play but 36 seconds, and it's the reason what I wrote in my series preview for Insider, and it's the reason I've said on this podcast many a time, it's because the Mavs are awful when Rondo's on the floor, and people need to get that through their thick skulls. The fact that they sat him was why they had a chance in the second half. That's why. Yeah. Not because, like, he didn't have it going or anything. No, it's because he's terrible. That's a fact. He's terrible when they're on, and they're terrible when he's on the floor. The bigger question is, why was the most impactful dude, your best defender, a guy who had it going, by the way, offensively as well, why wasn't he playing down the stretch in the fourth quarter when this thing was going out of control from an athleticism standpoint? When no one could guard Josh Smith. They couldn't find...
Yeah, 3 blocks and a couple of steals in a short period of time. Well, on the other end, though, Houston, they had, by the end, they were just messing with that defense, and they had so many lobs from Josh Smith to Dwight Howard, but they looked good. They looked like they could survive a poor shooting James Harden night, obviously, and, Josh Smith had 9 assists coming off the bench there. Corey Brewer was great off the bench as well, and Dwight Howard, 10 of 15. A lot of that was just right at the rim, 28 points and 12 rebounds. But we know Houston's good. What happens to James Harden when the playoffs start? Can you answer that question? Because look at the guy forgets how to shoot sometimes. This year, in a couple of games, he's shooting, 32%? Yeah, he's right at 32% through 2 games in this series. Last season in that one series had 1 game where he shot over 50%. That was the finale. Only had another game where he shot over 40, so he shot 37% for that series. Go back another year, 39%. Go back to the year they ran to the finals. The last good playoff series this guy's had shooting the balls against the Spurs in 2012. What happens?
I think let me just talk in the context of what's happened last night and the last couple of games. First of all, we got to remember, he's not a terrifically efficient field goal shooter to start with.
Right.
He's okay, but the majority of his efficiency is drawn from, I get to the free throw line consistently, and when I get there, I don't mess around. I make my free throws. He's a career 86% free throw shooter or something like that. And so, when you look at what he's done, he's had a couple of off shooting nights, but he's still getting to the free throw line. Well, he's got 30 free throw attempts so far. That leads everyone in the playoffs so far in these 2 games. He's shooting 93% from the free throw line. So he's getting his work done. And then you look at a night like last night, they didn't need him. They really sat him down, and then this game got out of hand. And maybe that's the answer to why Carlisle didn't play Aminu. He kept waiting to throw him back in when James would come back in, but Harden never came back in. So, or at least he didn't come back in until it was out of hand. But again, if you look at his advanced numbers, I think what I would look at is the true shooting percentage for him, because that includes the free throws and the value of 3-pointers and all. He's shooting 58-3 in 2 games in the playoffs. In the regular season, he was at 605. So it's not that big of a drop-off. Over 20 percentage points here and there. And again, that includes him not playing as much as he would have played last night. That includes, the idea that, over time, we expect those percentages to come back up. Maybe not to his regular season numbers, but higher.
You do expect it, which is why I'm saying, this is the 1, 2, 3. This is going on the 4th straight playoff series where those numbers drop. And I understand what you're saying in terms of the true shooting percentage and all that stuff. But, everything else remains the same. He's still getting to the line, but he just can't. That drop-off from 44%, almost 10% or more drop-off, I don't know. That's surprising to me. I would think he would be able to have piece together some really hot shooting games. He just hasn't been able to do it for a while.
Can't do it. Can't do it.
That is absolutely correct. All right, coming up, we discuss the Celtics hanging in with the Cavs and what that means, if anything. We'll be back after this quick break.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
right, I mean, the Cavs and the Celtics, the Cavs won 99-91. Beat the Celtics, go up 2-0. I think everybody expected that. I don't think too many people expected the Celtics hanging in these games as much as they have been. It basically took LeBron kind of taking over the fourth quarter there to pull away in that game yesterday. But actually, they were up regardless. But it took him having that fourth quarter sort of hold off, let's put it that way, the Celtics there. Surprised by what the Celtics have done because, they're kind of, to me, the classic team that has a lot of good players but needs a one superstar to put them over the top or let them compete or let them close out the games like yesterday. But the guys they do have been playing pretty well. I mean, I think everybody loves what Isaiah Thomas can do, but for the most part, they're piecing together enough points, enough stops, and enough decent performances to keep themselves in this.
Hey, you know what I liked the most out of the Celtics last night? It was the fact that at the end of the game, with like under a minute to go, they didn't intentionally foul. They put the token pressure just in case the Cavs would cough it up and they could get a 3 or so. But they're like, look, we get it, guys. I know you guys want to go watch this Houston-Dallas game. I know nobody wants to.
They care about the fans. They care.
You know what? That was fan appreciation at its finest. I salute them. But then again, I have to remember that I got so used to watching college basketball over in the last month or so is that this idea that if you're down 30 with 7 seconds to go, we can still do it, guys. Let's keep fouling. We're not going to give up. No, I think the Celtics, they're approaching this in a very pragmatic way. This series, this whole experience is all about getting better. Is about getting their young guys a taste of this, of knowing, doing the right thing, executing, et cetera, et cetera. But this is not going to be a competitive series. No matter how much they hang around, the Cavs are going to make quick work of this, and then they're going to move on to the next round. Especially as
are they though? You don't think how quick? How quick? Do you think Boston can take one of the next two?
Maybe one. I'll get that home crowd in Boston is pretty rowdy. They're fired up, and they already don't like LeBron from various other previous run-ins. So I think I'll give them one in Boston, but I think that the Cavs internally are going to look over at that other series on the other end of the bracket and say, guys, we can't mess around here because the last thing we need is Chicago to get more rest, more recuperation for their guys, for the Joakim Noahs and the Derrick Roses and all that. So we need to end this series as soon as possible so that they have to go right into prepping and playing against us without any rest time.
Anything you see from the Cavs that gives you any indication that on the road they won't play the same? I mean, we've seen 2 games from Kyrie so far in his first 2 playoff performances, and they've been really good. Well, yesterday was fine. The other game 1 was better. J.R. Smith hasn't shot the ball especially well. Mozgov's been a beast, but Kevin Love hasn't really. It's been typical. Yes, game 1, 19-12, that's great. Game 2, 13-6, and kind of not really a big fan. Didn't play a ton, 30 minutes.
I thought he played well. I thought he played better than he did in game 1. He looked more at ease. But here's another thing. You want to talk about guys who just haven't had in the playoffs. Has J.R. Smith been the same since he wore his funeral outfit to Boston a couple of years ago? Remember that?
Yeah, I do.
His playoffs have been have been disastrous since then. I think that's a cause for concern because they do need his scoring, his spark, so to speak.
And he's going to shoot it a ton, and LeBron gives him all the confidence in the world to shoot it. But yeah, you want to? I was talking about James Harden's numbers. J.R. Smith, his last 2 playoff series before this, and I guess he wore the funeral to Boston.
Yep.
In that series, he only shot 38%, but the next series against the Pacers, he shot 29% and 23% from 3. So that's pretty bad. But I think he's pretty important. Again, because LeBron's going to tell him to shoot it every single time. So I think he's going to have to pick it up. So far, he's 3 for 15 from 3-point range in this series.
Oh man, they need him. They need him, and I'm not saying they need him for this series, but they need him in general. It's got to come back to him because this isn't going to cut it. By the way, the year before that, the lockout year when he came back from China, what's that? He shot 18% from three that year. I mean, so his last three playoffs he's been involved in, including this one, he shot 18%, 27%, and this year he's shooting 20% from three. That ain't gonna cut it.
Hey, did you hear?
As you pointed out, as you pointed out, on a lot of attempts, not like two or three attempts a game.
Exactly. So I mean, you heard this Pat Riley jab at LeBron, right? Some call it veiled, some call it not so veiled. It was pretty obvious. You've seen it, right?
Oh yeah, smiling faces and hidden agendas. That's a T-shirt. Shaq likes to say underdog. Put that on the T-shirt. This is something you put on the T-shirt.
It's a T-shirt. It's a band. It's something. It's a fantasy football team name, perhaps. But it was clearly a shot at LeBron, who really just kind of smiled through the free agent process when it came to the Heat and didn't really tell them anything and left them hanging out there. I thought it was unnecessary from Pat. You know, it's been a year already, and that served nothing other than to jab LeBron. But here was LeBron basically his reaction to it, which essentially was, I didn't hear it.
I'm unaware. Whatever he said, really, for me, it's not my concern right now. My concern is game two, but I have no notion of what transpired today.
Now, while that might sound genuine, I think I was going to say, I think it sounds kind of genuine, but it's clear that he knows. He might be 0 dark 30, but he knows what happened. What do you think? That said?
Yeah, that's a lie. No, it's, you know what? This is the hashtag that I like to call lies told on Twitter, or hashtag lies and the people who tell them. Look, he's absolutely right about one thing. That he does not concern him. He's got more important things to worry about. That part, I'm like, yeah, you're right. I agree with you there. But if we're to believe that the man who allegedly has has 3 phones, and when he's on the training table is checking all 3 at the same time, and has this legion of dudes who just say, hey, LeBron, you heard what so-and-so said and all this stuff. You're telling me that all of a sudden, I hadn't heard the news. That's just not true, man.
That ain't true!
Yeah.
Now, Brian Windhorst wrote that column basically saying Riley and LeBron are very similar. Some of those points were good points. A couple of them I thought were a bit of a stretch, but for the most part, kind of came to the defense of LeBron there. But, I mean, there is no reason to defend Pat Riley here. It was just him having a good time with a joke, and you can't really say he should have said that, right? There's nothing where Pat Riley was like, yeah, we're making a really strong point. Like, this is all history. Like, of course, if you're going to come to anybody's defense, you're going to come to LeBron's defense in this one, right?
No, well, first of all, I would say that Brian didn't come to LeBron's defense. Brian didn't even really condone what LeBron did. All he said was, the irony is, of all people in the world to criticize people about smiling faces and hidden agendas, the last person on that list would be Pat Riley. And he gives a lot of examples of things that Pat Riley has done over the years in Miami that could be considered similarly a smiling face and a hidden agenda. But he left out, here's the one thing. Brian, you're my guy. I can't believe you left this one out. When Pat Riley went to Glenn Rice's house, sat down with him, and Glenn Rice says, Pat, I'm hearing a lot of these rumors. I'm going to get traded. And Pat Riley said, hey, look at me. Look at my eyes. You're not going anywhere. You're a big part of this franchise moving forward. And the next day, he traded him for Alonzo Mourning. If that ain't smiling faces and hidden agendas, sir, I don't know what that is. You know what
that is? It's business. Just like LeBron's move was business. I think Pat being on this other side of it, where his job is just to bring the people together, and then Spo's supposed to do the hard work. Like, I don't know if he's maybe just softened up a little bit. You know what I mean? I think Pat has really gotten into this family. No, in this respect. I think he's really gotten into this family culture organization. Like, I think he thinks that once you're in, once you're in, like, what's not to love is basically what his process is, his thought process is, and he just cannot get over the fact that LeBron didn't want to be here anymore, because it's shocking to him who wouldn't want to be in this organization. And I think that's what I mean by softened up. Like, not in terms of he's not, cold-blooded anymore, just in terms of, just being surprised that could happen.
Izzy, your South Beach is showing, man. Tuck that back in, man.
What are you talking about?
No, I don't think. I think Pat Riley is just like other people in that kind of position who approach life that way. It's all good until it happens to me. So it's family, it's this, it's that.
Yeah, no. But this has happened to him before. Like, he's been spurned in free agency before. He's had. First of all, he's been. I'm talking about guys who haven't said yes to him. There have been guys who have not said yes to him.
That's one thing. That's one thing.
And him and Shaq had a huge falling out before.
And we see what happened to Shaq.
Right. Well, people turning on Pat is not new. My whole point was, I just think he was, for whatever reason, he just cannot get over the fact that he would want out. And I think he had thought that he had built the perfect situation for this guy, for LeBron, and that he's still not so much hurt as much as just flat out shocked that he wouldn't want to be a part of it. That's what I'm saying. And that's why he still can't let go and still says this, even though I'm sure if he had a moment to think about it and said, of course I have done similar things like that in my career. So that's all I'm saying.
No, here's my thing. Is there a part of the shock that LeBron would ever want to leave this Shangri-La? Absolutely. I think that's part of it. But I think the indignation and the hurt is because someone pulled the Pat Riley on Pat Riley. It's like pranksters. Shaq was the biggest prankster in the world. He took Louis Amundsen's bike every day. Every day we were in Phoenix, he took the bike and hit it somewhere different in the arena. Every single day. The last day of the year, Lou pranks him back by putting those styrofoam peanuts in Shaq's car. And Shaq responds with what can only be classified as the nuclear button of pranks in return. And I'm not going to get into it because it's a very long story, very elaborate, but needless to say, it was disgusting and a million times greater than whatever the most reasonable approach to the situation would be. That's who Shaq is. Shaq likes to play little pranks and tricks, and it's all fun and games, and it's funny. He's got a great sense of humor until he's the object, and then not so fun anymore. And Pat Riley's the same way. He likes to do this and sit in his ivory tower making decisions, but when the first time one of his creations or something like that bucks against him, and it's not like Shaq, because Shaq bucked against him, and Pat Riley was the one who said, "You're fired. You're out of here." Or, Pat Riley fires you. You don't quit. And LeBron quit. And that's the part that stings him, is that it was not on his terms. He was not allowed to say, "You're banished from the kingdom."
And here's the funny part about this whole thing is it was just, all this was a setup for him to take a jab. Because the question, frankly, and this is not a knock on the question asker, but the question didn't need to be asked. The question was, going into this free agency period or this off season, are you in a better place in terms of understanding what you're going to have? Meaning, last year, had no clue if it was going to have LeBron or not. He thought he was, so that kind of messed him up in terms of what he was going into free agency thinking. So now it became a scramble mode toward the end, and we all know what happened after that. Who knows if he would have gone Josh McRoberts, Danny Granger route if he had any inkling that LeBron would leave. So the question being asked was, do you have a better grasp? Well, of course the answer is yes, because there's no similar situation to that this year. So all that was is, here's an opportunity to say something snarky, and he took it and he ran with it. And I don't know if he was planning on dropping that line. It seemed like it was sitting there in the back of his head, and he was going to drop it at any given time. But he seemed kind of hesitant when he said it a little bit, like it wasn't, it didn't come out immediately. So
really?
that's what kind of makes me laugh. It was just kind of there. It was just a setup for him to say something, and he took it, and it was like that was entirely unnecessary.
I took it a different way. I felt like he was kind of like, he did the pause, like, you guys all paying attention, right? Because I'm about to give you guys, I'm about to trend on Twitter again. Like,
so he said, "You want to trend something?"
Yeah, you want to trend something. Yeah.
I'm pissed. But anyway, that was I thought that was Pat jumping in the news, and it was really much ado about nothing, because it's just continued shock or whatever you want to call it from last offseason, and it really, I guess it did continue into this postseason because the Heat's not there, and that's more reason to be upset. But let's move on. And to the Wizards and Raptors, and the Raptors, they may be the North, but they're still down 2-0 in a playoff series and cannot win at home.
Hate hard.
Oh, yeah.
They can't win at home, and they were my pick to win this series in 7. I don't understand how, and I know the Raptors were not great defensively this year, okay? I know they had some challenges on that end of the court, and they're more of an offensive team, yada, yada. But how in the world does a Wizards team that has struggled so mightily to be consistent offensively go into your building in a must-win situation for you guys, essentially, not to go down 0-2 with having lost 2 home games, and the Wizards score 117? Like, somebody explain that to me. I mean, you're first in line.
Yeah, I would start with they're not a very good team, the Raptors. And the Wizards, but they just happen to be better than this particular team. And the other thing is, maybe Paul Pierce was right. Maybe he just got in their head. One of the two. Full disclosure, I caught very little of that game yesterday because I was watching the other 2 games. And so I would flick back and forth, and one time I'd flick and it was like a 20-point lead, and then it's a 13-point lead, and whatever. But I just think that we're just seeing 2 not very good teams bash against each other, and one of them just happens to be better than the other. I picked the Raptors in 7. It's obvious that pick looks very dumb right now. And my justification was between the Wizards' offense and the Raptors' defense, I had less faith in the Wizards being able to take smart shots than in anything that the Raptors could do defensively. And I guess I was wrong. It's only 2 games.
Well, the Raptors are the ones who take. The Raptors to me are the ones who take bad shots, but they have more bad shot makers, and guys like Lowry and DeRozan and maybe some Terrence Ross in there and some Lou Williams. But in that game 1, for example, it was. I know they were running plays, but it ended up in isolation, and then when the defense collapsed, it was emergency pass and then some desperate shot. Like, that offense turned into nothing, and then, yesterday they still score 106 points. They shoot 48%. They only turn the ball over 10 times, only assisted on 19, which goes to show you it was a lot more isolation stuff, or, I don't know if I would call it isolation because maybe that's not the goal from the start of the play, but they end up, obviously, without an assist on the play a lot. So, but they give up 53% shooting, and, Wizards team was moving the ball around. They got 26 assists on their 42 field goals. So, but you mentioned about the Wizards, two not very good teams here. Can the Wizards be good, though? Because, you get John Wall dropping 26 and 17, and I know, like we mentioned, the Raptors aren't very good defensively, but he's not doing that against anybody, really. Not many people do that in the playoffs. And then Bradley Beal found his shot a little bit, went 12 for 21, started playing tougher, and scored 28 points. If you've got that backcourt playing to its full potential and, sort of saying forget kind of Randy Whitman and just play basketball, that could be pretty good, no?
It's hard for me to get excited about this series.
Well, not this series. I'm talking going forward because you said it's 2 pretty not good teams. But I mean, this is going to be a team. The winner of this series is probably going to win, play Atlanta, and. Yeah. If Atlanta doesn't win convincingly against Brooklyn, which so far they're 0 for 1 in opportunities to win convincingly, then maybe people are going to be convinced that the Wizards have a shot if those 2 are playing that way. Because Gortat giving you 16 and 8, that's sustainable. Paul Pierce, he only gave you 10 points. Nene only gave you 6. Now you got probably a performance off the bench in Otto Porter that you might not get very often. But for the most part, it seems like this is kind of what they can do.
Yeah, no, it is, and yet I still have absolutely zero faith in them. And it's funny, so this is the 3rd playoff series that the Wizards have played in. Presuming they win, it'll be 4 playoff series in 2 years, and I will have picked them exactly 0 times. So I don't have faith in this team and the way it plays. I love John Wall. I love Bradley Beal. I thought Pierce was a pretty good pickup as far as being a wily veteran. I think Nene has been an underrated big in this league. I think Gortat is in the perfect situation for a player of his talents. Mm-hmm. I just don't believe in this team and winning the playoffs.
Because the faith of this team has to have – if you have faith in this team, you have to have faith in that backcourt being able to take over. Because
– No, I think.
Isn't that their highlight?
Well, it is their highlight, but I think the faith lies in, if you have faith in this team, you're basically saying, I have faith that this team can overcome these structural, fundamental playbook problems that they have. And by the way, that's not impossible because, as we know, players can say, okay, coach, and then they can walk out there and do whatever the hell they want.
And who's in the best position to do that? The guards.
The point guard.
The guys with the ball in their hands.
Yeah.
Are they not
absolutely.
the ones who have that opportunity?
They're the ones who have the greatest opportunity to change or make an impact or whatever you want to call it. So, yes, in that sense, I guess you're right. Faith in the Wizards means I have faith in this backcourt.
And probably, look, I know they know and they hear the rumblings and they're not thrilled with the way, Randy might run stuff. I mean, he doesn't even know which way to turn his dry erase board when he's in the huddle, so I'm pretty sure the players themselves have questions about the head coach. So, if you're in a playoff situation like this, and if you're, Bradley Beal in particular, because you can tell he's being a lot more aggressive now. Like, go look at his April. He shot more in April than any other month by 5 attempts a game. And in these playoffs so far, I think it was 23 shots in game 1, 21 shots in game 2. He's clearly going to say, all right, if we're going to lose, it's going to be me being aggressive. And that's not really the way they're set up. I mean, he's told me that. The team, we're not set up to have one guy score 30, but Bradley Beal's playing like the guy who's going to go out and score 30 and everybody else fill in from there.
Yeah.
That's a popular answer for you today.
I know, hey man, when it
I'm either stumping you or boring you.
You're a little bit of column A and a little of column B.
Don't go back to talk hard.
I'm pretty sure it's the Wizards that's boring you. It's the Wizards that are boring you, not me.
No, yes, yeah, it's definitely the topic matter. And I apologize, man. I feel like people are tuning into this, they're giving us their hard-earned time and minutes and saying, you know what, I expect them to hate hard on some capacity. And really the greatest hate hard I can deliver is just my absolute apathy when it comes to discussing. I really would rather talk about Pat Riley.
I'm trying, Wizards. I'm trying. He's just not biting here. All right, I'll give you this, though. Here's the thing. Washington, all right, they averaged 120.1 points per 100 possession in that game. That's the 4th highest offensive efficiency in a game this season. And teams win 95% of the games this season when averaging at least 120 points per 100 possessions. And what that means is the Raptors' defense is god-awful. It's god-awful, and they might not win a game.
Yeah, and that's really scary, man. That's scary to think that they're going to get swept. Now, here's a more interesting question. What does this mean for Dwayne Casey, who I think has done a good job? I don't think their roster is that great. But
the roster is pretty flawed, in my opinion.
The roster is flawed, but I don't think, even having said that, they're not get swept out of the playoffs with home court advantage flawed.
They're not that bad, but yeah, no, I agree with you there. So you look at it and you say this team should be able to defend, kind of, because Terrence Ross, lanky, whatever, athletic, you would think he could defend. DeMar DeRozan, but here's the thing.
They did it last year. They were top 10 defense last year.
Yeah.
With the same people. You know what the biggest difference is?
Yeah. Amir Johnson.
It's the same roster. They didn't change anybody. It's the same roster. In fact, they added James Johnson, who should have helped. But you know what the biggest difference is? All those dudes got paid.
I mean, that's one way to think about it, yeah. But look, okay, look at the roster, and I know they did it last year. Lou Williams, not a great defender. Gravis Vasquez, not a great defender. The thing that I don't like about DeRozan and Ross as a wing combo defensively, they can get pushed around so easily. They're so thin, which then puts a lot of pressure on whoever you're putting up front, Valanciunas, Hansbrough, Amir Johnson, whatever. I think, and then Patrick Patterson, not a fantastic defender either. So I'm not sure exactly how they did it last year, but this year, you look up and down the roster, and it just doesn't seem like they're built for defense. I mean, Amir Johnson doesn't play as much. He could be a quality
he's on the
defender there. Yeah. So I'm not sure. I mean, James Johnson. I mean, the games that I've seen him make some pretty big impacts in games, like a game against the Clippers in Toronto where Blake Griffin was eating them up, and he essentially came in and stopped Blake Griffin. But then you don't know how Dwayne's going to play him from game to game. In game 2 yesterday, what did he get? 7 minutes. So, I don't know if they have the answer or on the roster or if you can blame Dwayne Casey, but I just don't think that Dwayne can be that bad of a coach where he can turn this team into this bad of a defense. Like, I'm going to go ahead and say it's more of a combination of maybe they're not built to defend and maybe there's a little bit of that we got paid type of mentality going into a couple of these guys.
I think, and it's not even a mentality like, I'm paid, I don't play defense anymore. I just think it's human nature. When you're fighting for your life, the whole NFL is built upon this, right? You're fighting for your life. You will go through brick walls and be super focused. And when you have a little bit of that security, it tends to go away, especially when you're dealing with guys who are not defensive guys by reputation, as you just went through that list of guys. Very few of those guys are like, oh, yeah. We're not talking about any Jimmy Butlers or Kawhi Leonards or Draymond Greens on that roster. We're talking about guys who are, on the outset, they would say, I'm an offensive guy. All those guys, top to bottom, with the exception of Amir Johnson, Chuck Hayes. They might be the only two who I would say are like my first calling card is defense, and then everything else falls. Everybody else.
Maybe Tyler Hansborough.
I think he's just he may think he's defense, but he's not.
Right. It's just effort.
He plays hard.
I guess.
Effort does not equal defense. But James Johnson, maybe I put James Johnson in there because I think he knows that. But then he's also a little bit off the whack. He's a different dude. to use one of the quotes from our NBA lexicon video that we made a couple of months ago. He's a different dude.
He's a different dude. It's not an insult. He's just a different dude.
It's not an insult. He's just a different dude. So I think when you look at those things, I think that's the biggest difference between last year and this year. And that's the thing that this team needs because they really don't need more people to score the ball. If they got that pretty much handled, it's how can we as a team collectively. They don't even have to be great, by the way. That's the frustrating part. They don't have to be the Warriors or the Bucks, defensively. They just have to be good enough to where the Wizards are presented with two options. Should we keep trying to get a better shot, or should I just take this uncontested or lightly contested mid-range jumper? And we know this Wizards
podcast. Sorry.
Yes, I do.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No. You're right. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, do you remember the podcast we had with
Doug.
Kevin Arnovitz? I'm sorry. I'm thinking of a different one. It was with Kevin. We were talking about basketball IQ and how important that is and what the Warriors are. Do the Raptors have a bunch of guys with high basketball IQs? Because it seems like they have a lot of basketball talent. But I don't, that offense should, even the way it works is not exactly, the beautiful game type of sport. It's just the guys taking advantage of their abilities, usually in a one-on-one scenario. But are they missing some basketball IQ? Is that what's dropping them off?
I wouldn't call them a low IQ team, but they're definitely not on the Warriors' end of the spectrum. They remind me of the Suns in many ways, and I've made this comparison a million times between the Raptors and the Suns. The Raptors are the Suns if they played in the Eastern Conference. So basically, we wanted to tank, but it didn't really work out that way. So we ended up being really good. The only difference is they're in the East, so really good in the East gets you a top 3 seed, or a top 4 seed. Really good in the West gets you, playoff lottery margaritas or whatever you want to call it. But the same thing, like you said, they don't necessarily take advantage of their talents as a whole. They take advantage of the talents individually. A lot of ISO one-on-one, a lot of questionable shot taking, but shot making. You have to give them credit for that. And then same thing defensively. It's not anything complicated or with a lot of attention to detail. It's just guys are be able to man up, and if they're not able to man up, we're going to get beat right now. And like the Suns, by the way, the Suns are not bad defensively last year, and this year they fell off a cliff as well. So a lot of mirror images there.
I think DeRozan's going to have one of those games where he just lines guys up and, shoots over them and has like 30, 35. And maybe they take a game in D.C., but I think this thing's over in 6 at the most. So before we go, by the way, real quick, my favorite part of watching a Raptors game is?
What's that? Drake?
It's watching Kyle Lowry argue with the refs. I mean, he's so animated with it, and it's every call, and it's just like he makes me laugh every time. But before we go, exactly. Before we go, tonight we got Brooklyn, Atlanta, Portland, Memphis, San Antonio, Clippers. Anything in particular? Obviously, that last game's the most intriguing.
Oh, yeah.
Is that what we're looking at?
I think we're all looking at Spurs Clippers. We want to see the adjustments the Spurs make. We want to see the Clippers starting five can build a big enough lead that their bench can't blow. That's basketball. This might be the only playoff series, the real playoff series that we have, right? The Spurs and Clippers in the first round, because everything else just hasn't been not as intriguing. At least in
not
my
compelling,
eyes.
not crazy compelling. Although I do like the Golden State New Orleans series, but that's just to watch individuals play. Like the scoreboard,
right.
You can take it away. You take that scoreboard away on that one. I'm watching every single play.
Yes, I agree with you. That's a great way to describe that series.
Before you watch those games tonight, though, you might want to read up on something. I mean, what do you have that just got published today?
Yeah, so everyone knows about the salary cap is predicted to go up $89 million in 2 years and $108 million in 2017. So what I did basically is I took those numbers, I calculated what the max salaries are going to be for those years, and basically wrote a nice little article detailing what free agency is going to look like over the next few years. You know, what are some trends we're going to be seeing around the NBA because of it. What players should do, free agents this year, next couple of years, what they should do with their contracts, what teams should do with their free agents, and it's a lot of great information. I rarely do this stuff where I plug.
If I may say so myself, it's fantastic.
It is, but I put a lot of work into this, and I would appreciate it. If everybody give it a read, you'll be a smarter fan for it.
All right, Amin has all the answers in that story about free agency the next couple of years. All right, well, that's going to do it for this edition of the NBA Lockdown Podcast. For Amin, I'm Israel. We'll talk to you guys again tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to NBA Lockdown on ESPN Radio. For more great podcasts, check out the Pod Center page on ESPNradio.com.